All right, let's talk about the future, specifically the next 30 years. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, just dropped its long-term forecast for the U.S. budget. And wow, what it shows is a potential future that's, well, it's unlike anything America's ever seen before.
I want to start with just one number from this whole report: 156%. Just let that sink in for a second. What on earth could a number that huge possibly mean?
Well, that number is where the CBO projects our national debt will be in 30 years as a percentage of the entire U.S. economy. We're talking about a debt that's 1.5 times the size of everything America makes and does in a whole year. And this is all based on one huge if our current laws on taxes and spending stay exactly as they are.
Now, to really wrap our heads around how massive that number is, we've got to take a quick look back at history. The highest our national debt has ever been was right after World War II. After all that massive spending, it peaked at 106% of GDP. We're already almost back at that peak right now. But that 2055 projection, it would completely shatter the old record, putting us in totally uncharted financial territory.
So, the obvious question is, how? How could this possibly happen? What's driving this whole thing? Well, it all boils down to a growing gap.
That gap has a name: the budget deficit. It's actually pretty simple. Think about your own household budget. When the government spends more money, what they call outlays, than it brings in from taxes and other income, it has a shortfall. So it has to borrow to cover the difference. And every single year it borrows, that amount gets piled onto the total national debt. And here, right here, is the heart of the problem. The CBO projects that over the next 30 years, government revenues are going to go up a bit, but look at that other arrow. Spending is projected to go up way, way faster. That gap you see widening between the two, that's what creates bigger and bigger deficits, year after year.
And let's be clear, this isn't just a bad year or two we're talking about. The report says these huge deficits are going to keep coming, averaging over 6% of our entire economy for 30 years. That's a level of sustained borrowing that's way beyond anything we've really seen over the last half-century. Okay, so if spending is the main driver, let's break it down. Where is all this money actually going? Turns out it's really focused on just a handful of things.
Just look at this breakdown for 2055. It's pretty staggering. Only 3 categories, healthcare, Social Security, and just the interest payments on the debt, are projected to eat up almost 3/4 of all federal spending. That leaves just a little sliver for everything else: defense, education, roads, national parks, you name it.
So, let's be crystal clear about what's pushing this. It's the rising costs of these big programs, plus the ballooning cost of interest. And that's where things get tricky, right? Because as the debt gets bigger, the interest payments get bigger, which makes the debt grow even faster. It's a really tough cycle. But let's dig even deeper into the why. Because behind all these budget numbers are some of the biggest trends shaping our entire country.
The CBO report points to 2 massive forces at work here. First, healthcare costs just keep climbing faster than the economy grows. And second, and this is a big one, the U.S. population is getting older. That means more and more people are becoming eligible for programs like Social Security and Medicare.
I mean, check out this timeline. We're projected to go from about 70 million people on Social Security now to almost 100 million by 2055. And look at that moment in 2033. For the first time, the U.S. is projected to have more deaths than births each year. That's a huge demographic turning point.
In fact, the CBO says it right in the report. The only reason the U.S. population isn't expected to actually start shrinking after 2033 is because of immigration. That's just how profound this demographic shift is.
And here it is, the direct connection back to the budget. The report is very blunt about it. This aging trend is the single reason why Social Security is projected to eat up a bigger and bigger slice of our economic pie.
So, we've seen the numbers, we've seen the reasons why. But what's the big deal? What does it all actually mean? What are the potential consequences if this projection comes true? Well, the CBO is really clear that this isn't just some abstract accounting problem. They warn that a debt path like this could have some really serious, real-world consequences for the economy and for our country's financial stability.
The report lays out a few key risks. For starters, when the government borrows so much money, it can crowd out private companies from borrowing and investing, which slows down the whole economy. It also pushes up interest rates for everyone, not just the government. It could tie our hands when we need to respond to the next big crisis, and it might even make other countries lose a bit of confidence in the US dollar. But the biggest risk they mention is something called a fiscal crisis. So what is a fiscal crisis? The CBO defines it as that scary moment when investors, the people and countries who lend the U.S. money, just lose faith. They're no longer willing to buy our debt, at least not without demanding super high interest rates. Now, the CBO says that risk is low today, but it warns that the risk gets bigger and bigger every single year that the debt keeps climbing.
As we start to wrap this up, there is something absolutely crucial to remember. This CBO report, it's a projection. It's not a prediction. It's not a crystal ball. It doesn't say this is going to happen. It's showing us the path we're on if nothing changes. Think of it like a warning light flashing on your car's dashboard. It's there to tell us we need to pay attention to the long-term consequences of the choices we're making right now. Which, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. The report maps out one possible road based on today's laws. But laws can change, priorities can shift. What the next 30 years actually end up looking like, well, that's a story that hasn't been written yet.